What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of 1-0. And so I had a schedule written down of what I wanted to do, but we're just going to hop right into it because this is right after Ohio State just beat the brakes off Clemson. And so I got to come out and I just got to address it. So one, I was very wrong. Two, kind of my take on Justin Fields and, he's preparing for this game so differently and these guys are really turning it up. Well, that kind of backfired on me. I still stand by it. I'm not backtracking on that because I think that if he would have prepared like he did for this game, he would have thrown for 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns from when he thrown and still threw darts like he threw. I feel like, if he would have done that preparation, then maybe Northwestern and Indiana wouldn't have been as close as they were. And maybe then there's less of an argument for them to get in the playoffs. But, I guess it works out for him because, Dabo had him ranked at 11. And that ended up working as motivation, obviously. And they beat him by 3 touchdowns. And it really was not even that close. So, tough L for me on the prediction. But that's not what matters. We're here to talk about it. We're here to talk about college football. And we're here to talk about it with you guys. We're all here to talk about it together. So, masterful performance by Ohio State. As much as I dislike Ryan Day and wasn't that big of a fan of Justin Fields, I gained a ton of respect for him in this game. There are still some things that I get frustrated with him, like he'll just throw into quadruple coverage for no reason, which is why there's the 1 interception. But, if you're going to do that in any game, this is the game to do it when you're already beating the crap out of him. So I guess it doesn't really matter. And the way that he stayed in after that Skalski hit, regardless of whether it was a targeting call or not, the way that he stayed in after his ribs were pretty messed up. It was pretty obvious to see. The way he stayed in, fought through the pain, and played the masterful game he did is just once again a testament to how talented of a quarterback he is, and a reminder to QB scouts in the NFL, just how valuable he could be in this year's upcoming draft. So I'm trying to think of just other thoughts on this Clemson-Ohio State game. So just some quick thoughts, quick reactions here. Ohio State looked, one, more motivated, more energized, more physical, and just yet more effort on some plays too. Just, on that, well, it ended up getting turned over, but just throughout the plays, throughout the game, I was just referring to where Trey Sermon goes down, and then he was down, but then he kept running afterwards. But there were multiple times where he would get hit at the line of scrimmage, and he would keep fighting and get like an extra 8 yards. And those are the difference between 1 yard gains and 8 yard gains. And if you're playing for just third and manageables, those are huge difference makers. So he was once again a difference maker in the game. I think that the whole narrative of Ohio State having that up, the score from last year's game up on their, in their gym, they were talking about it and all that stuff really worked to their favor in this game. I don't know if it'll work to their favor against Alabama, but that's a conversation for another day. But for this game, it definitely did. And you could, like I said, more motivated, more effort, more energized. And that's because they wanted to beat Clemson more than Clemson wanted to beat Ohio State. Clemson was like, we already beat these guys. Let's play our game. We'll go out here. We'll get the dub. We believe in ourselves. And Ohio State was like, we've been waiting to play these guys the entire year. This is who we wanted, and we want to just show them how much better we are than them. And we want to show them on every play that we're going to out-physical them. We're going to out-violence them, in the words of Ryan Day, right? That's what he wants to do. We're going to just outplay them in every facet of effort and emotion possible. And that's what they did. I don't really like Ohio State, but I got to be honest, and I can't front here. We don't do that. We don't do this on 1-0. We don't front. So just an awesome performance by Ohio State. And I think the accuracy of Justin Fields, the ability that he has within himself to be one of the most accurate throwers in the country as a quarterback, really showed in this game. And, there were some of those throws that were just on a line through 2 defenders, and it's just a perfect ball. A couple of those throws were like inches away from being tipped, but he just put it in exactly the right place. And especially his deep ball accuracy, just perfect. And when you couple that on with the ribs injury, it just makes it that more impressive. Ryan, or not Ryan, that's Ryan Day. Justin Fields showed guts in this game. He showed a lot of guts, and for that, I commend him. Kind of got screwed 6 games because the reason I got my eyes like this, if y'all are watching on YouTube, you know, if you're on the audio podcast, you got to go check out the YouTube because I got this look on my face and I'm just thinking, Kyle Trask, Heisman finalist. Justin Fields wasn't. That's really the L that I think Ohio State took. Like, looking at all this, because they still got in the playoff with the 6 games, and the national championship and playing for that is all that really matters to them in the long run. But when you think about that and you watch this game, you can't help but think that Justin Fields is just a bit better than Kyle Trask after his timely 3-interception in the first quarter performance against 10-2 Oklahoma. So, just a note there and some food for thought on Justin Fields in that one. Granted, it wasn't his fault, and it wasn't the Heisman voters' fault for him only getting 6 games, but just food for thought. Once again, I don't think it would change the Heisman. It's going to be Devontae Smith. But this game makes me feel like he deserves to be there more. That's just my opinion, though. That's just my opinion. Anyways, I'll get off the Kyle Trask train or the Kyle Trask hate train. So no more to him. But just saying, I mean, this was a phenomenal performance by Justin Fields. And he's going to be the more dynamic and probably better and more overall talented quarterback than Mac Jones, which I think is going to be very interesting because we know how important quarterbacks are in any game and how they can be that X factor. Last year, in this same game, Trevor Lawrence was that X factor with that run he had. I mean, every game that you're in, LSU's entire season, their X factor was Joe Burrow. We know how good quarterbacks are. This goes without saying. So that'll be interesting. I think that might be the best chance that Ohio State has against Alabama. And I want to just touch on that matchup a little bit. We'll do a full-blown preview here coming up with the game in a week. But just to do some quick early thoughts on Alabama and Ohio State. So I think the biggest difference that I'm thinking of initially after watching that Clemson game was Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were just eating up the DBs for Clemson. And that's what Jamar Chase and all the receivers for LSU did last year as well. That Darion Kendrick, he'll be an NFL draft pick, but he's gotten eaten. in two straight college football playoff games. So, no more AJ Terrell this year to help him out. And I think that the deep balls and all that stuff, that was a difference in this game. Because if they didn't have that, I mean, that's 2 touchdowns taken away, and then this is a 1-score game. So I really feel, I mean, there were a lot of things that were the difference in this game, but that's one thing where I feel like that had the most effect on the scoreboard, where if they could have played, if they could have forced them to be a little bit more one-dimensional and on the run, maybe they could have stopped with some of those short gains. But also maybe Trey Sermon just goes for 80 more yards. You never know. I'm not saying that would have given Clemson would have won if they stopped them in the secondary. I'm just saying that was a very apparent struggle for Clemson on defense, on top of just getting set up, but specifically seemed like the DBs were the weakest link throughout the game. And that was even after Nolan Turner came back in. So, and they did get an interception, but that was once again where Justin Fields is throwing into quadruple coverage. So, I mean, that's not really the defense playing well. That's just Justin Fields throwing where there's 4 Clemson DBs for no reason. But anyways, we'll get off that. Once again, their receivers going up against Patrick Surtain, who is the number 7 overall player in the draft and the number 1 corner, who is also 6'1", 202. So you can match up with them size-wise, and he's more talented than Clemson's DBs. It's going to be very interesting. I don't know who's going to win the battle. We'll have to see, but it seems like it's definitely going to be tougher for Ohio State with Alabama's DBs. So I think that's going to be the very interesting matchup, the most important matchup, just off rip after watching this game. It could definitely be a different matchup, but this is what I'm thinking initially. Is that DB wide receiver matchup between Ohio State's receivers and Alabama's DBs, because we know Alabama's receivers are going to eat, just straight up. But when we look at that matchup between Patrick Surtain and all those guys they have there that are just much bigger and much more physical and just frankly better prospects and players than Clemson has on the secondary, it's going to be interesting. But then again, we've also seen people like Matt Corral go for 48 on Bama's DBs. I think the defense is better than when it was then. But you can argue that Justin Fields and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are better than Elijah Moore and Matt Corral. So it may be a shootout. There's a lot of different questions, but that matchup is going to be huge because I still don't think, even if they eat, I don't think they're going to eat like they did against Clemson's DBs. So then that falls more on Trey Sermon, but we've seen what Trey Sermon did against Northwestern. Granted, Bama's defense probably a little bit better than Northwestern, but Trey Sermon's still a beast. So I think we're going to get a close game in this national championship. And I think the most important thing here is, I know there's playoff expansion talks. Some people feel disrespected, all that stuff. We saw kind of two blowouts here. And these are the top 4 teams. And maybe you could have put in a better team. They could have put up a better fight. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Here's the thing. I know that a lot of people feel like it sucks. And I know I'm an LSU fan. So I've been in this system and it's worked for me last year. So maybe I'm a little bit biased. But I'll be completely transparent about that. We're getting the 2 best teams in college football. I think that that's for sure with this game. The national championship will be played by the 2 best teams in college football. I think that's very apparent and that's very clear. And that's something that we've definitely got to be thankful for as college football fans. So that'll really be my final thought before we get into ND and Alabama here just for a little bit. But just final thought, we're getting the 2 best teams in college football, guys. And if you're a college football fan, you can't ask for much more. Anyways, so getting into Bama Notre Dame. This game was a lot closer than I think a lot of us thought it was going to be. I personally thought that Bama was going to beat them like, how they beat A&M, like 52-24 or something like that. 31-14, take out the garbage time score, 31-7. Probably one of the better defenses that Bama has faced this year, which is why they only scored 31 points. Is Ohio State better than Notre Dame's defense? Interesting question. We don't know for sure. The only comparison we have is that Clemson scored a little bit more against Notre Dame's, so you could say that Ohio State's a little bit better, but game comparisons aren't always the end-all be-all. We're really just going to have to wait and see what happens. But I think that everyone can definitively say that Ohio State's defense is probably a little bit better than Notre Dame's. So what that tells me, and their offense is a lot better, so what that tells me is, once again, probably going to get a pretty good, close national championship game. Maybe there's a slight chance that Bama beats the brakes off of them, and they were really only just kind of had that motivation for that Clemson game, because that's going to be another key question. And I know I said I was going to talk about ND and Alabama, but now I'm just getting back into Alabama, Ohio State. May not even have another episode, but that's going to be another key factor in this national championship game. How does Ohio State respond now that they've accomplished their goal? Like, you would think, it's easy for them to get motivated. They're playing for a national championship. But a lot of times, after you accomplish that big goal, like they've avenged their loss, it's like you can see teams fall back a little bit and maybe not have the gas as much on the pedal. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Ohio State could come out with that same flair, feeling disrespected. But it's very different because while you had Dabo Swinney and Clemson ranking them at 11, and a lot of people told them they didn't belong, and it was the score that was up in their gym all year, it's very easy to get motivated for that game and to continue to fight throughout that game. Now you're going up against Nick Saban, who's basically only going to say nice things about you in the press conference and talk about all of the things that you do so well. So you're getting a complete flip in just your opponent. I mean, when you talk about physicality, you talk about what they've done. They're undefeated. They've dominated basically everybody they've played. And other than maybe Ole Miss when they just couldn't. But it was also Lane Kiffin who knew that scheme. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Ryan Day does in his first matchup with Nick Saban. That's why initially I lean Alabama in a close game, because I feel like this is Ryan Day's first national championship. Nick Saban does this regularly. So I'm just going to lean with that. I feel like a lot of you probably have that in your gut just off rip. I'm not saying Ohio State's not capable of winning the national championship, but I'm trusting in Nick Saban and his preparation a little bit more than Dabo's and Brent Venables, and I thought they were really going to shut him down. So once again, your boy could be wrong, but I'm trusting in that. Maybe even next year, Ohio State gets over the top. If Ryan Day has experience in that situation, or maybe he just goes 1-0 like this podcast. But I think just off rip on the night after watching these two games, I am a little bit concerned because Bama didn't score as much against that Notre Dame defense. But I feel like they're also going to play a lot better in the national championship. And I think that they're going to be excited and motivated for a challenge, because they're going to be coming off this Notre Dame game where they probably went in knowing they were going to beat them pretty handily. And now they're going to go into this Ohio State game and say, oh, we have a challenge here. This team just beat the brakes off Clemson, and Clemson beat the brakes off of the team we just beat by more points. So it's a very intriguing national championship. That's really all there is to say about it. I got a big smile on my face because I'm just excited to soak it in. Even though these are probably my two least favorite teams in all of college football, I'm still gonna eat it up just because of the matchup and the talent and all of the moving parts. That it's gonna be so interesting to watch. So I'm really excited for that. All right, let's talk about some San Antonio Spurs. So I didn't get to check them out as much as maybe some of you guys did, because I was really laser focused in on Clemson, Ohio State, and I was very shocked at what I was seeing. So I was like, okay, let me see this. But I did get to catch a little bit of it on the stream. I love the way he's still looking for charges, the way he's still going for blocks late, even though he struggled on offense. And you could tell he was just kind of getting his feet wet. It's going to take him a couple games, I think, to get back in the swing of things. Maybe really only one after this. We'll have to see. But loved the way he played, even though maybe made some mistakes. Didn't have the greatest game on the stat sheet, but I still, we talked about it last time. With him playing, the Spurs have a chance to beat the Lakers and to be in the game with the Lakers. And they were leading late. Ended up losing this one. LeBron and them kind of took over, but 6-point loss, and you had a shot to win it with like a minute left. That's exactly what we were talking about last time when we talked about Derek White. So I'm just happy to see that. Yeah, didn't pull out the dub, but even him just getting his feet wet, you could tell the difference he made without LaMarcus, and you had an even better shot to win this game against the defending champs with LeBron James, who's one of the greatest players of all time. So yeah, it's just a regular season game, but you still got to be happy with it. Let's talk about some other positives. Keldon Johnson, 5 for 9 from 3, 10 rebounds, and 26 points. You love to see it. 7 from 11 for the field. How many steals did he have? Let's check the stats. 2 steals, a block as well. Had 4 turnovers, but it doesn't matter because he was keeping the energy and the juice up. Once again, I didn't get to watch too much, but I know from the highlights that I did see and what I did see from in that game and last game against the Lakers is that he's going to be a star. He's a beast. He's a future all-star. I'm so happy to have him. And you guys who are Spurs fans, we're just blessed we got him out of the Kawhi trade, because he was a hidden gem there at 29. The 29th pick the Spurs just hit. Derek White, Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray. How did these dudes fall that far? Speaking of DeJounte, didn't have the greatest game. Still found some ways to contribute, but they kind of just started giving Derek his minutes there at the end. 0 for 4 from 3, 5 for 13 from the field. Once again, didn't really watch this game, so I'm just stat watching. Did have 8 boards, so not the best game from DeJounte. Hopefully look for him to improve. Same thing with Lonnie. Wasn't as bad of a game from him, though. Shout out to DeMar going 3 for 4 from the three-point line again. He's got a shot, 23 points as well, 7 assists. So DeMar played great, at least from the stat sheet. No more LA. Drew Eubanks, let's give him 20 minutes for the rest of his career. And I mean, honestly, that's really all I have to say. I could give you guys more, and we could talk about it more. But to be completely honest with y'all, I didn't really watch the game. So shout out to Keldon Johnson. Shout out to Derek White. I watched it a little bit, but as much as I could. So y'all tell me what you thought. Tell me what your thoughts were on the San Antonio Spurs and their loss against the Los Angeles Lakers tonight. Think that they're on the up and up. Can't wait to see Derek more when he's really in full form and getting the full minutes and back in the starting lineup, I hope. We'll have to see. But anyways, guys, this has been your episode of 1-0. We talked some college football playoff. I kind of burped in the middle of that sentence there, if y'all heard that. Or hiccuped, actually, not burped. That would be gross. But I don't know. I mean, the hiccup might have been gross too. Anyways, talk some college football playoff, talk some Spurs, talk the national championship. Y'all hit me up on Twitter at Jude McClaren with any questions, anything you want me to talk about, any disagreements. Hit me up in the comments section here on Strive Network. I'll respond to you. All that good stuff. Y'all keep checking in. Y'all keep going 1-0. Catch you guys next time.